What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Mailbag time. At John Middlekauff. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered here on the podcast. We will start with TJ. Question for the mailbag, since it's a fugazi. Is the biggest fugazi in all sports college football preseason rankings? I actually think this is no longer really a fugazi. I think it used to be like Texas used to always be up there, even when they sucked for a long time. They're kind of the same cast of characters. Obviously, Alabama and Ohio State. But there would be like 4 or 5 of these teams. It's like, guys, Texas hasn't won in like a decade. Florida, how are you putting them like 11th? They're going to go 7-5. I think in this NIL era, we have a pretty good idea. I mean, let's look at last year. You know, Ole Miss is a good example. A lot of people thought Ole Miss could be a sleeper for the national championship. Now, they ended up not making the playoffs. They still went 10-3 because their team's just too good. They're spending too much money. So when you see some of these teams last year, a lot of people are like SMU. It's like they're spending a lot of money, guys. I think, I guess Texas Tech is spending. Someone sent me something that said they spent $50 million. Now, I saw the AD of Texas who pushed back against Ohio State, who wanted to. I mean, Texas Ohio State is week 1. That's a pretty good game. And Ohio State wanted to move the game to Sunday night. And Texas is like, we're not moving that game for Sunday night. Like, put us on a short week. And everyone's like, well, you're playing San Jose State the next week. It's like, guys, that's not really their problem. Like, you could put this game on Saturday night if you want, even though I think they're not allowed to do it. But the point is, I think we got a pretty good idea. I think there are only a couple wild cards. But, like, with NIL, we know for a fact Oregon's going to be sweet. Ohio State's going to be sweet. Texas is going to be sweet. I mean, Georgia's just proven it over and over. We know Notre Dame's good. We know Penn State's good. I kind of view it. Now, there's going to be a team, like Arizona State last year, that's going to come out of nowhere on a given year. Boise State was kind of a pick last year. Like most people thought they were going to be that one individual team that stole the at-large bid for the non-power conferences. I don't think people ask me all the time, like the U.S. Open's coming up in 2 weeks for golf. Like, who's your sleeper? There are no sleepers anymore. I would never bet a sleeper anymore. Bet Scotty Scheffler. And if you want a sleeper, bet Bryson DeChambeau to top 5 or top 10. John Rahm maybe to top 5 or top 10. I wouldn't mess with, unless you want to take like Tommy Fleetwood to top 20. No sleepers are winning these tournaments anymore. No, there's no sleeper going to the national championship anymore. It's not going to happen. Look at the way the Final Four played out last year in college basketball. It's just the elites. I mean, it really is. Love the show. I love that what if question someone sent in the other day and you talked about Terrell Davis. There are so many angles you can go with the question, whether it's injuries, what coach lands where, who drafts who. I think you could do something like that weekly, just kind of get us by until the season starts. Just a thought. If you consider it, would love to hear your what if Willis McGahee doesn't have the horrible injury in the Natty. Still had a hell of a 10-year career with over 8,000 yards. I think that's a pretty good one. I think, what's his name? Jalen Smith, who was viewed like, I don't know, better than like Roquan Smith coming out of college, and Roquan went where? Like 7th or 8th in the draft, or Luke Kuechly. I think Jalen Smith out of Notre Dame was going to be a pretty special player and had the devastating knee injury. So I think any guy that has a devastating knee injury, Marcus Lattimore, if you remember, at South Carolina, had a horrific knee injury. The 49ers drafted him. I remember being at training camp and just seeing like, this guy can't move, which is sad. Willis McGahee's the best case. You come back and you have a long career. I think one guy, and again, some of these, like I was so young. I was in like high school when Willis McGahee was in college. But I remember by the time Ricky Williams kind of got his shit together and just was trying, and with Dave Wanstead in Miami, I was like, this guy's a monster. Can you imagine how good Ricky Williams would have been if he just would have gone to probably a less chaotic place than where he went with the Saints, and they traded the draft and then the weed stuff and he left. One, if they just would have allowed him to smoke weed, and two, if he just would have gone to a better organization than the Saints when Ditka traded the whole draft for him. I definitely think that's one of them. Is because Ricky Williams was a fucking monster. Uh, for the bag, I'm in my mid 20s, firefighter from up north. Seems like all my friends and family are finding their special someone, and I'm patiently waiting. As someone who just got married, how did you manage during your years of dating and waiting for your wife? Also, love the side stories of Saquon and Scorpion. I would say you just do that. You just date. I think the Mr. and Mrs. Right, you never know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in your life that you do not control. When you meet people is definitely one of those. When you're talking about a significant other, unless you're marrying your high school sweetheart or someone you met in college. But once you get to the workforce, the one thing with high school and college is like you're around a lot of women, right? Once you become a firefighter, like you're just kind of around the other firefighters. So unless you're going to marry another firefighter, you're probably going to have to date either going out or internet dating, which is not easy, or have friends introduce you. But for me, I just dated, had a good time, and worked. And I just threw everything I had into work. And again, I'm lucky, one, and I have a lot of deficiencies, probably insecurities and different things in my life. But I did never compared myself. Like I never had FOMO. Was I late to the party? I just was pretty kind of tunnel vision and just doing living my own life, and knew people that were having kids. Hell, my brother has two kids. So, and got married in 2018. It's like you don't want to get married just to get married. Like that ain't gonna work. There's a reason 50% of these things fail. So I would say I'm sure people that are married aren't happy. So you can't always be jealous or worry. You got to really work on it. It's way easier said than done, especially in the world we live in, is just not comparing yourself to others. The faster you can not do that as much, like this isn't football. We're not in a draft. Well, does this guy stack up to this guy? Like this is your life. And there are always going to be people doing things that you're not, that you want to do. And you just got to focus on how do you accomplish those things. Now, obviously, when it comes to a wife, you definitely can change your mindset. Like I wasn't ready to get married in my 20s and even through most of my 30s. Like it wasn't something that I was, it might have been the people I was meeting, but it didn't bother me that I didn't, the girl I was dating, I kind of knew, like, I'm not marrying this girl. So you know, I don't know, man. You just got to let life, sometimes it's out of your control. Pray. The NBA Finals are here, and this is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. And the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make it a finals to remember. One team will be crowned the champ, and the other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Obviously, everyone's picking the Thunder. Not going to lie, don't hate dabbling a little on the Pacers. 5-1 to win the series. It's the NBA Finals. They just destroy the one seed, the Cavs, work the Knicks. I think people are sleeping on the Pacers a little bit. I get the Thunder are good, but I think people are underrating the Pacers. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Who you got carrying their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40, or 50. I would expect, obviously, Shea, but definitely Halliburton to have some big games. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets and finish the season as a winner. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet $5, win $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. My question is this. Diehard Lions fan. I feel like there are not many weaknesses roster-wise and theoretically should be ready to compete for Super Bowl. Regardless of losing both coordinators, I do have true belief in Campbell. I want to have equal faith in Goff that he is an elite quarterback to win it all. But when the biggest games occur in the playoffs, I feel like he crumbles. Now I feel like the Lions are the right quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl after losing Stafford, but at the same time, we couldn't have gained the assets from the quarterback trade. Do you think Goff is good enough to get it done? I do. I think if you're healthy in the dome, you have a shot. I think if you got to go on the road, outdoors to Philly, to Washington, that's going to be pretty hard. I do think he could win in LA. I think he could win in San Francisco. I think it would just be difficult for to see Goff. Now your team can win. That's the other thing. Like you can if you're playing at Green Bay in the second round. Let's say they win the division and you're the 5 seed and you play them in the second round. And it's 0 degrees and it's hard to pass. It's like, well, play defense and run the ball. I mean, the 49ers beat the Packers 1 year against Aaron Rodgers. I think the final score was 13-10. So, like, you're going to have to win with a quarterback like him sometimes when he doesn't do that much, which is fine. But I think the scary part with him, just like a lot, I mean, it's no different with Purdy outside. And this is where Stafford has an advantage, is like Stafford, we saw him last year in that snow game against the Eagles. He was unfazed. I mean, he was throwing dots. And it's like there are certain players that you just do not trust in outdoor cold conditions. I've seen it with the 49ers from Jimmy Garoppolo to Purdy. Just not going to be, but so I had no problem going on a dome, go play Minnesota or the Lions in a dome in December or January. It's like, okay, playing outdoors is hard. You know, Jalen, if it's not really working, he can run around. That's what makes the top guys so special. Like, like Patrick Mahomes could play in Alaska or he could play in Miami. It wouldn't matter. Most quarterbacks are not that. I do think Jared Goff is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I feel as if Green Bay has found the blueprint to always have an elite quarterback. First, find your first elite guy, easier said than done, admittingly. Then have him lead the franchise until his mid 30s. Then draft his replacement, the young kid, sits for 2 years, and then he takes over. My question is, why isn't the rest of the NFL doing the same? The Saints let Breeze go until the wheels fell off. Same with the Chargers and Rivers, the Giants and Eli. Not saying Love is going to be the Hall of Famer, but he puts Green Bay in a better position than a lot of quarterbacks. Well, if you look at the Saints, they were really interested in Patrick Mahomes. I think their plan was to draft Patrick Mahomes. And Veach and the Chiefs found out. And they made sure they didn't. So if Patrick Mahomes is drafted to the Saints, does that look a lot different today? And do the Chiefs look a lot different today? So part of, your example, like you said, getting Favre, getting whoever, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Brady, you name it. Then you need the guy a year or two in, right, when he's 33 to 35 range to be at the right spot to draft. Look at Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. They were both picked in the middle of the late 20s. So, like, Aaron Rodgers could have gone one. I mean, there's a huge element of luck there. Jordan Love, they deserve credit because he was, I don't even want to say falling, but they targeted him and they traded up to get him. Now, they've also admitted, like, if Brandon Ayuk hadn't gone to the Niners, they probably would have drafted Brandon Ayuk. So I think the draft's a little bit of a crapshoot that way. And I think it's like, okay, we didn't have a guy in the first round we wanted because typically in that situation, you're going to be drafting in the 20s. Well, then I'm not drafting again until the late second round. And, nowadays, who's even there? What you're saying is right. That is the right strategy to do. I mean, the Patriots tried it. The problem is Brady just like wouldn't age. And Bill's like, I just got to trade Jimmy because I can't get rid of Brady. I mean, the crazy part is Bill takes a bunch of shit for like letting Brady go. He was 40 fucking two. I mean, it'd been one thing. It's like, he let Tom Brady go at 36. I would say that was pretty nuts. He let him go at 42. In the history of sports, if you let a guy go at 42, you're basically right every single time except Tom Brady. Any sport, anytime, except Tom Brady. He tried. And that was a late second round pick for the bag. Huge fan of your football takes. But I have a different question for you. I work for a large corporation and they recently announced they're eliminating an entire department, hundreds of jobs, in favor of using third party automated vendors. We all know it's AI, they just won't admit it. With that in mind, my question is how do you see the use of AI affecting the workforce over the next decade? And what, if anything, should be done? I'm pro making money as you are. You don't have to pay AI a yearly salary, match its 401k, and you certainly don't have to pay its health insurance. So I get the business decisions behind this. However, if we have millions or tens of millions of jobs replaced over the next decade or so, what do you think those people will lose their job should do? I don't think it's realistic to expect people to have the skills and experience in an office setting to all become electricians, plumbers, or mechanics. How do they survive? Well, they definitely do not. Uh, I think anytime we're in these scenarios, I do think it's very easy because doom and gloom and craziness sells. Uh, now I don't pretend, you're in a situation in my job, I don't feel it on a daily basis in terms of my use of it. Now, from an investing standpoint, I've invested a pretty heavy allocation into Serve Robotics, SERV, no financial advice here, but it's a pretty large holding I have right now. And they're basically just Uber's an investor. It's like this robotic company that's going to build robotics to do things, right? From delivering food to building different things. It's clearly coming. I mean, the power of AI, just using it to look up questions is pretty incredible. And depending on what you do, I see Maria for real estate using ChatGPT all the time. Um, I'm not smart enough to know what everything's going to look like in 5 years. I saw Gary V, who is not afraid to make some proclamations. He's like the tech version of like Coward or Stephen A. Like he'll come with a strong opinion. He thought that like kids in 20, 30 years will marry robots. I'm like, they're going to be banging robots. I could see a robot that can like cook you dinner and can clean up and can do a lot of things, but like you're legitimately, they're going to be your significant other. But I'm also not naive enough to think like that's impossible one day. Um, so I don't pretend to have the answer. I listen to enough podcasts and watch enough TV with enough smart people that I don't think they're just following the trend line of like, yeah, this is really going to be something. Like I think it's clear people in different worlds, especially yours, see the power of it. I mean, hell, you just walk into like a McDonald's, there aren't even humans. I mean, how far away are we from a McDonald's or Taco Bell having a building and there not being a human being inside and it being 100%, from making the food to ordering? Honestly, some of these probably exist. I'm always shocked when you walk into like a CVS or some of these and there's a person standing there at the front and they don't check you out. They're just self checkouts and she's just kind of there staring at you. It's like, what are they paying you to do? I guess if it goes down, but like sometimes it's like an old lady, they're not fixing it. So I is it going to be like millions of people just on the sideline? If that's the case, we'd have a problem. And that's where some people have been saying forever, like we're going to head it toward universal basic income because there are going to be jobs. There's going to be jobs for these people. But I mean, one thing I heard something the other day that a lot of these college graduates, like, where are they going right now? It's not a lot of openings. Because like, why would I hire a guy? When I was coming out of college, it was like starting salary. You had a college degree in like a business type job. Let's just say like $60,000. That was, you know, 2008, seven. I mean, almost 20 years ago. So maybe that number's now, depending on the city, New York, San Francisco, anywhere from like 75 to 100 grand. I mean, depending. Obviously these numbers change, but like, do they even need that person anymore? But that's the scary part. Um, that where do these people go? Now we could have a whole other conversation. I was thinking this the other day. I was like, I got two college degrees and they're completely useless. Now, I wouldn't have been able to get my job at Fresno State without my degree at Cal Poly, but that degree at Cal Poly was 100% useless the last 20 years of my life. So it absolutely had zero impact on me in terms of utilizing anything I learned in a class. Not one thing. It's kind of crazy. Yet, like your percentage of earning power as a college graduate is so much higher than a non-college graduate, even though I think that paper is completely worthless in terms of the actual substance behind it. Now, the actual result, I guess, is clearly speaks for itself. So it's a long-winded way of like, I don't really know. Uh, Interested to see as much as you. Hopefully, they don't come out with Fire Football podcast, or I'd be fucked. Ben Johnson definitely gives off some weird vibes. And yes, Bears fans are almost as bad as Dallas fans. Since Jaden Daniels ripped their heart out, they've been insufferable. Anyway, we're about the same age. Who's your all-time running back? I never saw Jim Brown and just missed the juice. Barry Sanders to me is by far and away the best I've seen in a tier all by himself. What say you? I would say Barry Sanders number one. I would say that the best running back I've ever seen live. I've seen Adrian Peterson have a couple. I've seen him play probably 5 or 6 times live. I've seen him have some monster games. I saw him in the peak of his powers in the prime of his career. That fucking guy was like Secretariat. Now, he was a flawed player for being this massive, obviously I can't speak to Jim Brown. I think the Juice was clearly pretty talented. uh, I would say Walter Payton. I think if Belichick was sitting here, he would say Jim Brown, Walter Payton would be up there. Adrian Peterson, just as a pure runner, was a pretty dominant individual. Now, not a great pass catcher and awful pass blocker. I would say the two most versatile guys I've ever saw were Marshall Faulk and LaDainian Tomlinson. They were just, I mean, they would have been so good in 2025 playing in the spread era. I mean, oh my God. So I would I'd go Barry Sanders or Walter Payton. Love listening to Three and Out every day. I had a question. How easy the Cardinals schedule is this year, with how easy it is. Do you think they underperform again? They will look to move off Kyler with the upcoming quarterback class? I would say if they have an underwhelming season, that Kyler's job would be in jeopardy. Yes. Because how long are Jonathan Gannon and the GM going to tie themselves to Kyler Murray, a guy they didn't draft or sign? Now, the problem is I think it's hard to move off guys like Kyler because they're just good enough to tease you, but not bad enough for you to suck. Like if Kyler is healthy and plays 17 games, I would say their floor is probably 7-10, and their ceiling's probably 10. So what do you do if you're 8-9 or 9-8 and you miss the playoffs? Which would be kind of my guess of what happens to them. Though they spent some money this offseason. I mean, they do got good players. They drafted Marvin Harrison high. I saw a video of him. It's hard to, I never know if this stuff's AI anymore. Marvin Harrison right now looks like Terrell Owens. He is yacked. McBride's a stud. They signed Sweat on defense. They had a good draft. Who they draft? Pass rusher, the inside pass rusher. They drafted Will Johnson. I think Cardinals are going to be tough. I think they're going to be like one of the best teams that probably doesn't make the playoffs and just toughest to play on a weekly basis. I'm a football coach and an avid golfer. I love the football content, but in the off season, you need to hit more golf content. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the non-conforming drivers, big names skipping the Memorial, and of course the bloodbath to come at Oakmont. I will have a go low tomorrow. That is the game plan as of right now. Okay, we got a couple more. Hope you're enjoying Arizona. My question is around Purdy and the contract discussion. I agree. You watch the guy, and he doesn't have the nuke arm, crazy mobility, or any measurable worth mentioning, but the guy wins. The talk of he only wins because of CMC, Debo, and Trent grinds my gears. How many quarterbacks have won without multiple Hall of Famers on their team or coaching staff? As a business owner myself, I think about it in an off the field manner. How many business owners succeed without great employees? How many employees succeed without great management? The media is asking the guy to do something few, if any, have ever done. Win a Super Bowl with minimum coaching talent or player talent. I just don't get it. Can you actually think of anyone who's done that? What's unfair to Purdy is because the Niners were so good, his team gets discussed right next to like the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills. So, guys, no one, and I mean no one, is comparing him to those quarterbacks. And if they are, they're fucking idiots. He's not as good as those guys. And everyone's like, what about Burrow? Burrow too. Burrow too. But like relative to his conference, which is like Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, and Dak, the last 3 years, not counting last year, but the 3 good years with McCarthy. Look at Goff and Jalen Hurts. They're on absolutely loaded offenses. Both of them have the best offensive lines in the league. Look at the Eagles have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon fucking Barkley. The Lions have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's one of the more versatile players in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a badass. Sam Laporta, if you're doing a tight end draft from scratch, I'd probably not making it past 3 or 4. So it's like they're on loaded offenses. Do you think either one of those guys with a shitty cast is going to look good? Of course not. Now, I would say the difference now that Ben Johnson's gone, Kyle, but I'm with you. Like, Belichick had Brady. Favre had Holmgren. Montana had Walsh. Most good players have good coaches. I mean, well, welcome to football. It's just the reason he's so polarizing, and we mentioned this earlier with the Bryce Huff stuff. We discriminate where you're drafted. We just do. If Brock Purdy had been the 33rd pick, the 21st pick, he would be discussed much differently. But he's the last pick in the draft. So his discussion is like, this can't be real. The guy can't be that good. It's just the way it works. Fair or not. But it's never going to change. It would happen too if any of these guys, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord, you name any of these guys that were just drafted in the 6th or 7th round, went on to be starters and good. They would not be treated the same as last year, Bo Nix or Michael Penix or any of those guys. We give a high pick a benefit of the doubt. They should be doing this. They were drafted high. You shouldn't be doing this. You were drafted late. My question isn't sports related. We've been running our YouTube page for 3 years and haven't gotten quite the traction we'd like. We film musicians mostly through Montana, but get people nationally that come through. We post consistently and have an okay following, but thought it'd be more by now, specifically on YouTube. What could we do better to gain growth? Do you think this market is too saturated to gain a real following? Thanks. Keep up the best sports podcast alive. I can only speak to the way that I post/consume. I consume like a search engine. So I mentioned last week driving around that Tesla. I'm like, I'm going to drive a Tesla. So I've watched a lot of people do Tesla reviews. And some of these guys have pretty big followings. But then someone sent me an email like Tesla's the number one selling car in the world. So it's like it's a pretty big deal, right? So imagine a lot of people are searching on YouTube for that specific thing. Well, for June and July, unless Howie said he would come on. I think Spytek's going to come on. Adam Peters, he's kind of trying to give me the runaround. Veach ghosted me. Some of these guys, like if I get some of these guys to come on, who knows? Maybe it'll do decent. But for the most part, June and July is going to be dead for my business, right? Where do I do the most traction during the season? A lot of stuff's happening. Big stories, games, guys getting injured, just massive things happening. So it's like you're searching specific stuff. Let's say tomorrow, I'm just going to use this as a hypothetical. The Cowboys trade Micah Parsons to the Detroit Lions. Well, if I did a reaction podcast to that, it would do 6 figures, I would imagine, because Shador Sanders was huge for us. But these are specific stories that people are searching. So if you're just doing generic stuff, how am I going to search you, right? How am I going to find you? Why would myself as a consumer that searches different things ever fall on your page? And I listen to a lot of music on YouTube. So I'm not trying to discourage you by any means, but I think you have to figure out how can we, just because you post something doesn't mean people are going to come to it, even if it's good. So what I do typically, I mean, 2 of the 10 months a year, kind of 3 maybe are dead. I mean, 2 are just slower. And then a couple in the off season are a little better than that, but still relatively slow. But 7, 8, 9 months, there's a lot of stuff happening. So it's all reacting to stories. So that's kind of the business I'm in. I don't just for the most part, just post something to post something. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you. I think most people that have success, you got to find some sort of niche that people are gonna want to like, not even want. It's not even about wanting. It's about just I I don't even know how to describe it. I'm probably the wrong person to ask on this because I would imagine some people like, a musician just posts a song, right? Like if Kendrick Lamar or Morgan Wallen or Taylor Swift just post a new song on their YouTube page, their following is enormous. It's going to go viral. A ton of people are going to watch it. But like, how does a musician with 1,000 followers grow? Maybe you got to put out some good stuff, and you're just recording someone that's playing at your venue. I take it. Maybe maybe try to pay someone big to come in, maybe to gain some traction. Like if I just had, I'm trying to think, if I had Stefan Diggs tomorrow on my podcast, and he talked about the bag of pink cocaine, it would be big. It'd probably be one of my biggest videos of all time. It'd be a highly listened to podcast, you know. But if I had some random dude that played in the '90s for the Arizona Cardinals on my podcast, that was like a rotational special teams guy, no one's gonna care. So I don't have a great answer for you. Sorry. Love the pod and have been a listener since 2023. As a Cowboy fan that lives in the DFW, I often hear the phrase, the one consistent factor in the Cowboys for nearly 30-year playoff drought. I think you mean NFC championship drought, but I know what you mean, is Jerry Jones. I counter that. There are two consistent factors, Jerry Jones and the lack of an elite game-changing quarterback who can win big games. The media as a whole seems to justify Dak Prescott's ability by pointing to his regular season stats. And this is so frustrating to myself and many of my Cowboy fan friends. Why do you think the media, by and large, justifies teams keep keeping quarterbacks who have success in the regular season and can't win in the playoffs? In my opinion, fans could care less about the regular season stats. And the only important thing is winning championships. Dak's stats to me are a recipe for mediocrity and make it so challenging to care about the team. I think it'd be hard to move off Dak. I really do. And I do understand why they have reinvested in him over the years. I do think this last contract's a little crazy. I can't believe $230 million, especially after some of the playoff performances. I also think on Dak's side, it's like, can't you work with the Cowboys a little bit? Like you are making so much money because you're the Cowboys quarterback. Do you want to become a legend and put yourself in the biggest or best opportunity to win? You're making hundreds of millions of dollars no matter what. But he had to take every penny. And I think some of it falls on Jerry and their emotion toward the guy because he's such a likable human being. But I think the Cowboys have been taking advantage in this situation because when they've needed Dak to step up, he simply is not. And when the Cowboys have had to step up for him financially, they have. I do think there is value in the regular season because for your team to be consistently good, and they were for 3 straight years to win 12 games, having a quarterback that you can rely on is important. So I understand giving Tua some money. He has value because when he's out, the Dolphins suck. But I also see him against good players in the playoffs. You got no shot. So he does have value, but like how did they gave him the amount of money they did? It's like you guys are nuts. So there has to be some middle ground, and that's the thing. It doesn't really feel like there is middle ground. I mean, Sam Darnold was the closest thing we've seen to middle ground, and he just had an MVP ish type season. But then he shit the bed in the playoffs and got $55 million. Now, it was only 1 year, and he had to go to a different team. I think there's some loyalty with Jerry, with Dak. I'm not anti-Dak, though I do believe it's fair to say he was never quite the same with the ankle injury in terms of mobility. That was gone. Now he has this crazy hamstring injury. Is he just going to be truly a pocket quarterback? The problem is he doesn't have some big arm. And he's not like, I wouldn't exactly call him like Drew Brees from the pocket precision picking you apart. I mean, he's a good player, but the Cowboys would be royally, you know what, if this makes him a worse player, this injury. And I also think it's easy to say dumper. It's like, well, who am I going to date? I don't have any other options. It's easy for me to say, hey, you hate your job, quit the job. Well, hey, I need some money. I got two young kids. What am I going to do? It's much easier to quit that job when you got another one lined up. It's much easier to dump your girlfriend when you've kind of been flirting with this girl at work and you're like, she's single. Gives you the confidence. It was easy for the Eagles to be like, you know what, Carson Wentz, you're out of here. We're just gonna go with Jalen. It's harder just to get rid of the guy when you don't have any options. Like it takes balls to do what Sean Payton did with Russell Wilson. We don't really have any other options. Like we'll figure it out. The Cowboys are in that scenario. Like we don't really have any other options. So we're just gonna pay him $230 million. I don't agree with that, but I do understand the logic of like, well, fuck else are we gonna do? And the answer is you see these other teams, it usually is worse.